Yo, what is up, everybody? It's Jay the Great here, and welcome back to another Naruto reaction video here today. And today we got yet another video by the great Swagkage. Shout out to Swagkage for essentially blessing us with another holiday gift here, another video. It's good to see him back and posting consistently. Shout out to Swagkage if he's watching this video. As you can tell by the title, this is What if Naruto could use every jutsu? Now, this is certainly an interesting question. You know, in the Naruto verse, there are a multitude of jutsu, perhaps over 100. I wouldn't be surprised at this point, with the extensive history of jutsu within the Naruto verse. Now, Naruto himself, currently at the peak of his powers, was quite powerful. Right, he was extremely powerful, the strongest shinobi on Earth for quite some time, as far as humans are concerned, at the very least. If you were to add on top of that every jutsu that's ever existed and just add that into his arsenal, I mean, the guy would be perhaps the strongest single entity to ever exist in the Naruto verse. So I'm certainly interested to see where Swag goes exactly with this video. I'd be interested to see who he thinks Naruto could beat, if anyone could beat him. Conversely, having every jutsu that's ever existed in his arsenal, he really would be just the goddess shinobi at that point. So yeah, I'm very interested to see this one. But before I begin, firstly, happy holidays to you all. Hope you guys had a good Christmas Eve, and a good holiday season in general with your folks. But before we begin, anyone's really appreciate it. Hit that like button, turn on bell notification to stay up there with yours truly. And if you and you enjoy, man, you mess with the kid, make sure to hit that sub button, because once you do, become part of the family forever. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get straight to it.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Swagkage here. So this video is just going to be fun. This is probably one of the goofiest video topics I've come up with for any video on my channel in like the many years that I've been making videos.
Yeah, and great topic,
it's not like a stupid question in and of itself, but it's one of those things where it's kind of like something like a fifth grader or whatever would ask, like after finishing Naruto, well, Naruto's strong, but how strong would he be if he could use all the jutsu in the whole series ever? There's really no practical application for the information you're gonna get from this video. Like, you're never ever gonna be able to use it in any meaningful way in your life. This is just a fun thought exercise that kind of highlights how
fun hypothetical
a lot of
for
these
sure.
Abilities were designed to be used individually, like in isolation. You may have already heard him, by the way, but I got my buddy Six here. We're just going to be talking through this. We're going to start with the lower level stuff, the less
shout out to Six. Shout out to Six.
This would affect Naruto, but by the time we get to the end of the video, we're going to be focusing on like the late Boruto stuff and like the really crazy things that Naruto will be able to do. And it's gonna sound like my dad could beat up your dad, like type of rhetoric or whatever, because like we're gonna make Naruto sound super strong. But it's not just because we like Naruto that we're gonna be talking about him like this. All of these jutsu being used in conjunction with one another, it just like inevitably results in a really stupidly powerful character.
Of course,
and it's not like this isn't something that gets talked about. I mean, you see it on Twitter every like 2 weeks. Naruto with every jutsu versus Luffy with every double.
Certainly, the anime fandom on Twitter is always discussing hypotheticals. That's for sure.
Whatever we say here, use it to say.
Shout out to Anime Twitter.
Would be the one to win that.
Or Anime X, more specifically.
Yeah. The only ones who are worth talking about at all there are Goku and Naruto. Like, I'm not hating on One Piece or Bleach here. I haven't even finished Bleach yet. And it's not like I don't like Luffy, but Luffy with every devil fruit, it's not even a conversation when you compare like the way that Naruto having every jutsu would affect him. But that's enough of the introduction here. Let me really quickly, before we start talking about all of the jutsu, explain what I mean by every jutsu, because it's not just every ninjutsu. It's every ninjutsu, taijutsu, genjutsu, Senjutsu, and Shinjutsu. And for those of you who aren't caught up with Boruto, Shinjutsu are these crazy like god jutsu that the Otsutsuki use, and characters like Daemon and Ada all used. Some of them were, well, all of them actually were created by this crazy god dude named Shibai, and we'll get to him and his ability and how it affects Naruto. But pretty much anything that exists in the series that isn't like a weapon or something, Naruto is going to have access to. So, you want to start focusing on like the lower level stuff?
Yeah, okay. I guess a very simple one, right, would just be lightning release chakra mode, you know, with the right
Right.
card to use. It makes him much faster. It makes him more durable. Makes his reaction speeds faster.
His physical
Curse
prowess
mark.
improves for sure.
Curse mark,
Yeah,
same
so
thing.
this is one of the. It doesn't sound like when you list all of these things individually, it doesn't sound that crazy, right? Like lightning release chakra mode, the curse mark, but Naruto gets access to every amp style jutsu in the whole series. So he has the Raikage's cloak, the curse mark, and it wouldn't just be Sasuke's curse mark either, because he would have Sasuke's curse mark, Kimimura's curse mark, all the curse marks from the Sound 4, and then Jugo's Senjutsu, and be able to stack them all together. And then he would also have like the Choji butterfly mode, KCM2,
The
all
pills.
the stuff that he already has, like KCM2,
Many
with
amps at his
Kurama
disposal.
Link mode, Sage mode, Baryon mode, which is really strong already.
Karma.
Yeah, the Karmas from Boruto. He would have
Boruto,
like
yep.
other like minor amps like Kakazu's transformation.
The one jutsu Momoshiki uses to turn Kinshiki into a fruit.
Yeah, he would be able to do that to his clones or whatever, eat those clones and get stronger. He would also have 100 healings, Kisame Shark Fusion, every Sage mode, the 8th Gate, the Tensegon, all that stuff. So, like, he is walking
A plethora
out
of
the gate
amps, yeah.
with, like, just insane stats compared to everybody else in the series. He would also have the Ten Tails Jinchuriki buffs on top of the, like, normal 6-path Sage mode that he already has. And if you think that, like, Naruto's nerfed or whatever in Boruto, then I guess you just, like, say that he gets back 6-path Sage mode, even though he already has it. If you're one of those people who doesn't believe that he does for whatever reason, well, he gets that back, too.
So, I mean, he pretty much has every relevant amp. Some of these amps are multiplicative, right? Like, the curse mark is multiplicative. So, like,
Yeah, blatantly
I guess maybe
multiplicative,
it would
yeah.
depend on the order in which he uses them. But, I don't know, let's say he uses every other amp first, curse mark 2 last, and all of that gets multiplied by 10. Even the other ones that already had the multipliers on it. Like, it's potentially Baryon mode is like billions of times of an amp due to like nuclear fusion or whatnot. And then that times 10. And then, you know, Sage mode, some people say that's times 10. That times 10.
Yeah, most people agree.
And, you know, maybe KCM is like 10,000 times of an amp because of like what happened to Kakashi and all the other Jonin or all the other members of the Shinobi Alliance. So you really get a character here who has like limitless layers of exponents to go up in strength when you give Naruto all these amps.
Yeah.
Agreed.
It's pretty stupid. And then, of course, he has the stat amps that come with having a Sharingan, a Rinnegan, Mangekyo Sharingan. And speaking of, this is still kind of on the lower end, believe it or not. But he has every Mangekyo Sharingan ability, every Rinnegan ability, every Dojutsu. And so you might ask yourself, like, how, like, I don't know. He has a bunch of eyes on his face, maybe like Naruto-style Sharingan arm. Who cares? He has all of the jutsu. And so this includes, of course, Amaterasu, Tsukuyomi, Enton Kagetsuchi, Kodo Matsukami, both versions of Kamui, Shin's Mangekyo Sharingan Jutsu, and even, I guess, Madara's time control ability from Generations.
Right.
If
yeah,
you
it's
wanna include
theoretical
that too.
MS ability, right?
He would
from
also
the
have
video game.
every person Susanoo, and I don't know if you want to grant him the ability to stack them on top of each other, but I don't see why he wouldn't be able to do it. So, like, what I'm imagining here is he drops Itachi Susanoo, then puts Sasuke's around that, the way, like, Madara put the Susanoo around Kurama, or Naruto had Sasuke wrap his Kurama avatar in the Susanoo. He would be able to do that, but, like, with different Susanoos. Then he puts Madara's on top of that, then Kakashi's on
Like
top
layers
of
of
that.
armor.
And then if you
Yeah,
wanna
at this
include, like,
point,
Shisui's
multiple.
too, I guess you can throw that in there, and like the other filler Susanoos, like Hagoromo's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the most part, most of them would just act as like extra layers of protection over other Susanoo's, but Kakashi's and Itachi's.
So to put this into perspective, you know, this came to mind with them discussing other verses at the beginning of this video, you know, such as One Piece and Bleach, etc. To put this in this perspective, right, like Swag and Six said very well, with all these amplifications at his disposal, if we theoretically conclude, right, that all these amps stack up on top of each other depending on their increasing nature. So, for example, like Six said, Sage mode for most is multiplicative, right? I believe it's even implied or blatantly stated in the narrative that it's a time 10 multiplier. And then we theorize what the amps of some of these other amplifications are, such as KCM, which seems to be gargantuan, perhaps hundreds to tens of thousands of times of an amplification based on the significance it had in the war arc. We have the other amps, such as the 8 gates, right? That was a massive amplification for Guy, dozens of times, according to Kakashi at the beginning of Naruto, right, when he was discussing the gates. So if you combine all of these amplifications, add the dojutsus, and just add every amplification that you could list from the narrative, you could truly start to talk about a character that could perhaps rival characters that are insanely powerful from other verses. Because the numbers, like Six said, would stack up on top of each other. And like you said, you'd have limitless exponential growth at this point. And at that point, you can start talking about Naruto versus Goku, or Naruto versus end of series Ichigo, or etc. Right? So you can actually have him compete with these characters due to the gargantuan overall amp that he would acquire from possessing all of these amplifications. Right? Every jutsu, every amp in the narrative would be at his disposal. To put it into layman's terms, just imagine him having a near infinite amplification power, right? Because then you start getting into theoretical numbers, right? Power levels, right? Which is a term we usually get from Dragon Ball that is near limitless, right? Because Goku, for example, at this point in the narrative, right, in Super, his power level is damn near infinite, right? The number that he's achieved, the number that some of the higher ups in that verse have achieved are gargantuan, right? If you were to write them on a piece of paper, it'd probably take you many, many days to write it out. That's the type of numbers we're talking about here. If theoretically Naruto had every jutsu, every amp, every type of increase in power in the narrative, he'd be reaching those numbers just due to the sheer amount of increase in his power that he would achieve, right? So he would arguably be the top anime character in the big three, power level wise. He would rival people like Goku, rival again end of series Bleach, Ichigo, Saitama currently, who many are considering perhaps even above Goku with recent events that have transpired. So yeah, he would be insanely powerful to a near limitless degree. So it's very interesting to think the heights that this theoretical Naruto would achieve. But great video so far by Six and Swag. Let's continue.
Specifically are extremely special. So we know obviously Kakashi's has the Kamui Shuriken, right? And then Itachi's has both the Totsu Blade and Yada Mirror, which basically turn this like 5-layer perfect Susanoo defense into an even more perfect defense with the perfect offense weapon as well. And then, Kamui Shuriken on top of that. So, I mean, like I said before, really the sky is the limit with this.
Agreed.
When it comes to how much potential Naruto has.
So, like I was saying earlier at the beginning of the video too, these are not mutually exclusive abilities. Like the stacked Susanoo with all of the stacked amps aren't things that he has to choose between. He can use them all at the same time.
Simultaneously.
So he's running around in like Baryon mode with like the 8th gate open and 100 healings active with Choji's butterfly wings and with like Curse Mark 2 from all the different curse marks, and in Tensegan Chakra mode, in Kisame Shark Fusion with every Sage mode active, including the Toad Sage mode, the Snake Sage mode, and Hashirama Sage mode. And he has like the Karma mode on top of all that. And then he has these Susanos with the Kamui Shuriken, the Yada Mirror, and the Totsuka Blade. It's like, this is already stupid. Like, this Naruto can't lose to any character in like the Naruto verse aside from maybe like Shibai, just based off of what we talked about him having so far. It's really, really stupid.
And those are just like the amps, right? Those are just like amps to both defense and offense, right? Like when you talk about other ones of the crazy jutsu he could have, Damon's ability to be able to reflect everything and like intent, then you really get Naruto can't lose to anybody else.
Yeah, and we'll get to that in a little bit, but we haven't even talked about the other versions of like protection that he has. He has so many forms of immortality or pseudo immortality or like crazy forms of defensive utility. So he's, first of all, literally immortal if you think that Hidan's immortality was achieved through a jutsu of some kind. Like, he
Right.
just cannot be killed through physical means, which is, you know. So even if you get past the Yatamir and then all 5 of his Susanoo, I think he might have 6, actually. I don't remember. Even if you get past the Yatamir and all of his Susanoo, you still have to figure out a way to bypass his immortality. Then he has pseudo-immortality through Earth Grudge Fear, which is Kakazu's jutsu that gives him 5 hearts, and Izanagi. And he has multiple ways to use Izanagi. He has a bunch of Sharingan all over his body that can use Izanagi, and he'll actually probably be able to restore these Sharingan to the way they were. Like, they won't be shut forever. But we'll talk about how he can do that later on in the video. But so
Right.
Naruto has so many ways to avoid dying. He also has Sasori's like puppet core thing, because that was achieved through puppet ninjutsu. And
Correct. Yeah.
in case you don't remember, the way this works is like, so Sasori made this like little core where he put his personal, like that he stored his personal essence in, right? And that's how he turned himself into a puppet. And after that puppet body was defeated, the core shot out and went into a different puppet body that Sasori then, like, his consciousness inhabited. So, as this applies to Naruto, he would probably be able to shoot this core into one of his clones, which would then, like, I don't know, maybe that would stop the clone from popping or something. Maybe he'd be able to shoot it into another puppet or whatever, since he'd also have all of Sasori's puppet ninjutsu anyway, like performance of 100 puppets, and he'd have access to Chikamatsu's 10 puppets. There are a lot of ways that he could just like stop himself from being killed, because you have to get through the Yatamir, like we said, all the Susanoo.
Yeah, you have a plethora
Then you
of
have to kill him 5
defensive
Then
tools.
if you do that, he has
Certainly.
Izanagi. And then if you somehow get through all his Izanagis, he could just use the Sasori puppet core thing. He also has Kamui, like I said. And
that's if you get past Kamui, then you can deal with all of these versions of immortality that he has.
Yeah. So many layers of defensive capabilities here.
The other thing too is that this Naruto, he doesn't have the same weakness that Obito has when he uses Kamui, because Obito can't attack his opponents when he's intangible. Naruto can, first by using Amaterasu, second by using the other Kamui from the eye that Kakashi got, third by using like Tsukuyomi and every other Genjutsu that shows up in the series. He can also use puppet ninjutsu like we just talked about with Sasori. Pretty much any projectile jutsu he can use. He can also shoot out projectile jutsu stored inside of Kamui. And while we're talking about Kamui, I guess we can get into the... This is one of the dumbest forms of like defense that Naruto has, but he also has like every dimension hopping jutsu in the series, which means he can use Kaguya's Ame no Minaka, which is the jutsu that she used to take Naruto and Sasuke to the lava time space, then the ice one, and all those other dimensions that she had access to. He has Kamui, like we said, so he can go into the Kamui dimension, and he has Sukuna Hikona, which is the jutsu that Ishiki and Kawaki use to go into their dimension where like time doesn't even pass or whatever, right? I don't remember exactly how it works, but isn't it said that there's like no time there or something?
Yeah, time doesn't flow.
Time is frozen.
And they can go there like freely whenever they want.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So we'll get into how he can abuse Sukuna Hikona in ways aside from like storing himself there to make it impossible for people to attack him. But what Naruto could do is just keep his real body inside Sukuna Hikona, while inside of Ame no Minaka, while inside Kamui, and then send all his real clones into those dimensions, and then also into like the real world or whatever. So you would have to figure out how to get into Ame no Minaka's different time spaces.
Yeah.
And then you would have to, figure out while you're there and being attacked by all of Naruto's clones, figure out how to get into Kamui. Then, while you're in Kamui and being attacked by all of Naruto's clones, figure out how to get into Sukuna Hikona. Then you would finally be able to fight the real Naruto and have to get through his Susanoo, the Yata Mirror, his like Kamui phasing ability, Izanagi, kill him 5 times.
Literally, it'd be
kill him even though he's
quite the
immortal.
task to
And
actually
so
kill
those are
Naruto, to actually defeat him.
0 time.
Yeah. the other thing too, right, is before anybody says, oh, well, Hidan's immortality doesn't matter because you can just cut off his head. Naruto has regeneration, like Madara did, like Boro does. And he can also use Kakazu's jutsu to stitch his own body back together. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like Naruto, he's got you in a place where you can't move unless you have infinite or inaccessible speed, whichever one you want to say, I don't care. You can't move unless you have infinite or inaccessible speed, and you can't kill him. Because you have to be able to, if you talk about Boro's regeneration, you have to be able to find the core within his body in order to destroy it, which most people can't do.
Yeah, very tall task.
If you talk about Madara's regeneration, Madara can just genuinely regenerate from being cut in half. And then if you talk about both of those combined, and then with Kakazu's regeneration or his tendrils, he can just stitch himself back together even if you do cut off his head. So there's really no way to beat this version of Naruto. And this isn't even the most cracked version. Like, honest to God, this version of Naruto is pretty tame in comparison to what he can do.
Yeah, and well, there's another thing too. Like, we haven't even talked about like the Nine Tails regeneration that he has access to, right? Yeah. Because Naruto was already, as a kid, able to survive otherwise lethal injuries.
Yeah,
like
mortal wounds.
Lung hit with a Chidori because of Nine Tails regeneration. So, like, he already could kind of live through having his vital organs damaged.
Yep.
But now
insane regeneration.
It straight up wouldn't affect him. Like, if you stabbed him through the heart or like both of his kidneys or whatever, like Hidan, he would just stand there and be like, owie. And like, if you decapitate him, he can just regenerate. It might actually end up with him having two bodies that are both Naruto and not clones, or something crazy like that. I don't know. But it, like, he also, we don't really even need to mention this because it's not like he's going to be fighting anybody else in verse anyway. But he also has immunity to ninjutsu and genjutsu because of the Ten Tails mode thing that Obito and Madara have, right? So another alternate time space that he should be able to travel to is the afterlife, because Hagoromo was able to do that.
Right.
So if you want... Yeah, exactly. So if you want to add that as well, Naruto would be able to hide in a dimension, in a dimension, in a dimension, in a dimension, and you would have to go through all of those while being chased relentlessly by these super beefed up Naruto clones. And while we're talking about clones, and we're kind of already talking about Sukuna Hikona anyway, let's discuss the whole infinite clone prep time thing that he can do, which essentially means he has infinite chakra too.
Yeah, so obviously chakra regenerates, right? And
right.
Naruto can store these clones in a place where no time flows, so they won't pop. And we know that whenever Naruto explodes his clones or tries to get them back, he gets the chakra back from them, because that's exactly what he was doing against Pain whenever he was getting his Sage Mode chakra.
Correct.
So hypothetically, Naruto could set up an infinite amount of clones inside of Sukuna Hikona, depending on how big the dimension is, whatever. A lot of clones inside of Sukuna Hikona, and continuously pop them to continuously get his chakra back over and over again.
Seamlessly, yep.
Yep. And he can also like turn them into fruits, like we said, using Momoshiki's ability earlier to make himself stronger. Like, way stronger. Another way that he could possibly amp his stats is doing what Kaguya did and absorbing the expansive Truth Seeker Orb. So these are even more stat buffs that he has access to. And this is one reason why Baryon mode should be, it shouldn't have the time limit that it had in the original
Just
series.
insane.
Because he could just have his clones use Baryon mode and then pop them to like maintain it the way he did with Sage
Like an
mode.
infinite Baryon mode, that's crazy, man.
Exactly.
On top of the other amps, that's
like
wow.
There's no time limit to burn
Insane.
out if they're in a dimension that has no time.
Oh, some other extra forms of defense that he has, by the way, that we forgot to mention. He has Suigetsu's hydrification. So even
you liquefy?
You like bypass all the other stuff, you have to be able to hit him even when he turns his body into water. It's basically like the same principle as a One Piece Logia fruit, where like he's turning into water and can use it to like pass through attacks, kind of like with Kamui. It's just like a weaker Kamui. And he should also have Gaara's automatic sand shield. And since he has the third Kazekage's iron sand and the fourth Kazekage's gold sand, he should be able to make a stronger sand shield than Gaara anyway. And it's also like automatic. And it might even surround his Susanoo too. So
Yeah.
there are so many fucking layers of defense that you have
Oh
to
yeah,
power
a
past with Naruto.
plethora,
Like
man.
no one
It's
from One Piece is doing this. Okay, you are not hopping like into 5 different dimensions and then getting through the Totsuka,
insanity,
or sorry, the
insanity.
Yata Mirror, and then getting through all the Susanos, and then getting through Earth Grudge Fear 5 times, and then getting through Kidon's immortality, and then getting through Izanagi, all while he can like hydrificate, and he has the automatic sand shield, and he can regenerate, and he has the sorcery core thing that he can put onto his other clones. Like, it's not like it's just not fair, dude. And even if somehow
Agreed.
you are able to do all of this, if we assume that when Naruto dies, his clones don't, he can just use Chio's jutsu to bring his original body back to life, or his clones can use Rene Tensei to bring him back to life, or he can have somebody use Edo Tensei to bring him back to life. You know, like, because the other thing is that he would have access to Sasori sleeper agent genjutsu. So he'd just be able to program people to do whatever he wants. And one of those things would be to use, like we said, you know, Chio's jutsu or Edo Tensei to bring him back. And then when he's Edo Tensei, he could do all this stuff himself, you know, to get his real body back anyway, right? Like, this Naruto is going to be very difficult to kill. I don't even know if you could do it, actually.
Yeah, I mean, not to mention, like, a lot of these dimensions Naruto is hiding behind are, like, ability locked. Like, they're ability exclusive. Like, you can't just go into Kamui, right? You can't just go in. Like, so there's no way for most people to even get to the original Naruto
Agreed.
in order to
Yep.
kill him, to get rid of the rest of his clones. Clones, they can all do the exact same thing that guy's doing.
Some more utility stuff that he would have when fighting is he can teleport anywhere with Flying Thunder God, obviously, with Code's claw marks. And a cool bit of synergy here is, since he has the Rinnegan, particularly Sasuke's Rinnegan, and he has all these clones that he can make. The Rinnegan and like anything that's like connected to the original owner of the Rinnegan, like they all have shared vision. So Naruto should be able to see through the eyes of all of his clones.
It's like
And
infinite
that
number of clones.
means that he should be able to switch places with anything that he or his clones are looking at. He could also
Insane.
probably just make his clones with flying Raijin seals on them, like with enough training. I don't really see why that wouldn't be the case. And so, I mean, like, he could just teleport anywhere. He sends one of his clones.
Interdimensionally,
He
by
could
the way.
teleport to anything any of his clones is looking at. And since he has, like, bare minimum, like 5,000 of them, this means that he has access to pretty much any location on the entire planet.
He's untouchable.
Whenever he wants.
At that point.
But it's not just limited to 5,000 because, like we said, he can make an unlimited amount inside of Sukuna Hikono. So he can really just go anywhere inside of any of these space times that he has access to. Like, whenever he wants, right? It could just be instant. Like, you throw an attack at him, bam. The clone that it's probably going to be a clone that you're fighting, is gone. And even if you get to the real Naruto inside of these other time spaces, he can just teleport to those other time spaces, like the real world, the afterlife, Kamui, Aminominaka,
anywhere,
like whatever, right? Like, wherever you find the real Naruto, he can just go back into one of the other time spaces, and you have to figure out how to go back there and find him. And it just sounds like a huge pain in the ass, especially when he has all of these other defensive like options available to him. The last few things that I want to cover are like the third Hokage's crystal ball. He'd be able to mind control people with Kodo Amatsukami. That sort of thing. So that would make him pretty strong. He'd be able to switch bodies with people with mind transfer. You know, he'd have like shadow possession for paralysis. Like, there's a lot of stuff that you could probably think of that has like minor or potentially major utility, especially when he's able to basically create like an infinite chakra supply with the clone Sukuna Hikono combo that we talked about. But yeah, we can just move past that stuff to talk about the Shinjutsu and why they make him like completely unbeatable.
Okay, now I kind of hinted at it earlier, and Swag stopped me.
I want to say this real quick before we get to the Shinjutsu segment. What makes Naruto so powerful, right, aside from the amps that were discussed earlier in the video, is with all these tools, right, the amazing thing about Naruto as a narrative, right, not just the character, but as a narrative itself, is the thoroughness of the power scaling system and the broadness, the vastness of the tools that exist in the Naruto verse, right? There's immunities to chakra natures. There's affinities for chakra natures. There's these interesting reactions when certain natures interact. There's so much thoroughness and there's vastness, right? There's a vast arsenal within the verse, but also a very thorough defensive and offensive system in the verse. So Naruto, it'd be interesting because he'd have affinity and immunity to everything and anything that is Naruto related, right? Anything and everything that exists in the world of Naruto, power scaling wise, he would be set, right? Water style, for example, he'd be set. Fire style, he'd be set as far as immunity because he'd have water style. Earth style, he'd be set because he'd have lightning style. And the difficulty to actually affect and or damage him is near impossible. Aside from the physical prowess, you'd have to have the hacks necessary to actually have access to him, like Six said, right? He'd have these interdimensional teleportation abilities, along with infinite chakra supplies, which would make it very difficult to even reach him, let alone actually defeat him in a battle, right? So imagine you're Goku, right? Let's go cross first for a second, and you want to beat Naruto. You show up to Earth, right? He's there. He ends up teleporting to 5 different dimensions, right? In a whole different dimension, a whole other universe he is in, right? Then Goku would really have no way of finding him. He'd be in a whole different universe, not a different location within this universe, a whole different universe. Now, let's say Goku does have the physical prowess, right? Because he's so powerful in his own verse to actually hurt Naruto. It wouldn't matter anyway, because you'd have to access him. You'd have to first locate him and then access him. That's damn near impossible. You'd have to have a very specific set of abilities to do so, right? You'd have to have the physical prowess, right? You'd have to have the ability to interdimensionally teleport. You'd have to have the ability to actually locate someone interdimensionally as well. It's a huge task that very few people would be able to achieve. Right? It'd be very, very difficult for anyone in any verse to complete such a feat. It's a tall task, and you have to be in some very rare air as a combatant in fiction to be able to do something like that. You don't have to be godlike, more than likely, omnipotent or very close to it, power scaling wise. It'd be a very, very, very tall task to accomplish. Naruto would truly be nearly unbeatable to the vast majority of fiction, let alone just the anime realm, right? So it's very interesting when you actually put that into perspective. But let's continue.
With Damon's reflection ability. So the way Damon's reflection ability works is if Damon has his palm on someone, anyone, doesn't matter if it's a dead body or not, any ability you shoot at him with murderous intent or not gets reflected back onto you.
Correct.
So Naruto, say he's touching his clones, or the clones are touching themselves, or whatever, you can't hit him whatsoever. No matter what you throw at Naruto, it will always come back to you. Now, there's some different verses out there where if you attack yourself with your own type of energy, it's not going to do as much damage to you, but it doesn't matter. If you can't hit your opponent, you can't win anyway.
Correct.
Now, that's just one of the overpowered abilities. Now, another one he would have would be Ada's love ability, which wouldn't make you want to attack Naruto in the
Exactly.
first place.
Your intention would be manipulated.
To the reflection ability. Ada's ability, it basically just hinders you from ever wanting to attack her because you fall in love with her. It doesn't have to be romantic.
It's like a charming ability, right?
Yeah. It's not romantic. But whatever the thing may be, if it harms Ada, you don't want to do it to her. It literally stops your hand or whatever.
It manipulates your will. Right? Yep.
Now, omnipotence makes Naruto anything you want Naruto to be.
Godlike.
What this ability allows you to do is make abilities. So Shibai made those last two abilities using this ability while he's in his weaker form. So with this, Naruto can get rid of the weaknesses to certain jutsu. If he uses creation of all things, he can create things to do with the jutsu. Like, for example, say he makes a shadow clone. You
Yep.
can use creation of all things to make the shadow clone a real person, and broken things like that.
He could also say use creation of all things to make somebody's blood. By the way, this is something we didn't talk about yet, but he could use creation of all things to make somebody's blood, lick it, and then use the Joshin curse to kill them too. Like, you know, there's that as well. So like if you don't have like if your organs like are like weak or vulnerable or whatever, which is true even for Dragon Ball characters, for example, right? Then like Naruto can just do that, stab himself, and you die. Or he could use the Joshin curse and then like use Datara's C0 to blow himself up. You know, similar like end result.
Right. And then too, in a cross-verse manner, like if you talk about Naruto versus Goku, Naruto can just make Ultra Instinct. If he sees it, he can make Super Saiyan or Super Saiyan 1 or Super Saiyan 2.
Yeah, he's omnipotent at that point. He's godlike.
Himself a Logia or whatever from One Piece.
He could give himself Haki too.
Yeah. He could make himself Infinity from JJK or Unlimited Void, the different domain expansion. Like he could genuinely do anything with that ability. It's really to the point where I think that those debates became nonsensical once that ability got introduced into the series.
Yeah, because it's just like, I mean, there are so many things that characters can do in Naruto that are already really, really ridiculous. Like Orochimaru's body steal, which we haven't talked about yet. Things like that have like weird weaknesses or drawbacks. Like he can't use it except for once every like 3 years. But then with omnipotence, because he's aware of the ability, like he doesn't even have to be that clever to think of it. Because he's aware of Orochimaru's body steal, he could just be like, oh, I can make that, except without the 3-year cooldown and without any ability for the person I'm using it against to resist it at all. And so he could just like steal people's bodies, like say Goku or whatever, right? And he could eliminate the need for physical contact. He could just make it like activated the same way a Genjutsu is, like Itachi's ephemeral, where he just points at you and you're under Genjutsu. He could like do that with omnipotence. So he could like look at you, point at you. If you finally manage to track down his real body somehow, by the way, and then like he just steals your body and then you lose and he gets all your abilities anyway.
Yeah, it's like, okay, imagine Naruto makes a different dimension using Kaguya's ability, right? Like he makes an ice dimension where instead of it just being really cold, there's like absolute zero in there. Or like a lava dimension where the fire actually like melts the skin off of your bones or whatever.
He could also make a dimension of just pure nature energy, for example, like where there's enough like plants or something that give off like more nature energy than like the real world does. So he would be able to like power up all of his sage modes tremendously too. He would probably be able to create a dimension of just like Totsuka blades. So when he takes you there, you just get stabbed and get inside of the Susanoo gourd that Itachi had.
An infinite
like,
Tsukiyomi dimension.
There's really no upper limit to what he'd be able to do.
Yeah, and then
absolutely.
Just, like what Chibai did after he obtained this, like Naruto has the potential to become like a fourth dimensional being as well.
Insane.
Which I mean that just makes him even more unbeatable.
I'm trying to think like what win condition can you possibly give somebody like Luffy? I guess I mean you just can't. Right, like I know that
damn near
like
impossible
fruits in One Piece that allow you to access alternate dimensions or something, but they wouldn't be able to get you into Kamui. That's ability locked. Like Minato can't just teleport into Kamui because he can teleport, even if he puts the mark in a different dimension. Like that's not how it works. The only people who can get into that dimension are people with Kamui. That's why Madara had to take Kakashi's eye in order to do it.
But see, like the thing is, like whatever you do give to the other character, Naruto could just make the counter for that.
Yeah.
Right? Like he can make jutsus without weaknesses. Like any of the weaknesses like Damon, putting his palm on someone, those were all gained whenever Chibai had to put a limit on the power of the specific jutsu. If Naruto has infinite chakra and all that, he doesn't have to do things like that. He doesn't have to put a restriction or a limit on his jutsu. So like say Luffy does figure out how to get into Kamui, like I don't know, Naruto now makes the Kamui dimension you can't enter it if you're a pirate or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. It's just really, really goofy. And like, even if you get past all those other things, you still have like Damon's reflection to deal with. Like, you have to be able to withstand your own attacks, and like the attacks don't even come out. Right, like you get hit by your ability before Naruto would, and you have to
Yep.
bypass Ada's love ability too. Like,
So
there's
many
just
layers.
too many things that you have to have answers for, because he's also immortal, and you have to kill him 5 times. You know, like he has Izanagi. It's just
Very
stupid.
thorough.
Yeah.
Oh.
Genuinely, I can't
Covers all weaknesses, all possible weaknesses, nearly.
Anybody under this circumstance, like not when Naruto can just create anything he wants to.
So it's like, I know it's kind of like boring and like no fun allowed ish. Like, some people are gonna say this is like a no limits fallacy type of thing, but it's not our fault that Naruto has all this stupid shit like all over the place. You know, like, none of these abilities were meant to be used together. That's the thing, right? That's what makes
Yeah, that
it
wasn't the
interesting
intention.
when
Agreed.
people
Yep.
fight each other with like 1 or 2 of these abilities at a time. But when you give them all to somebody at once, it's just like, it's not fair at all. And they're like, again, like we said at the beginning, he has all these stat amps too that would make the ability so much more effective than they are when we first see them. There are a couple other things that he might be able to do that we haven't talked about that are a little silly. Like, he'd be able to say, I don't know, look at like a star or like a planet or whatever in the sky. His vision would probably be amped massively by the Byakugan, and he'd be able to increase the range with omnipotence or whatever too. So, but anyway, anything that he could see in the entire universe, even if he doesn't have his vision amped by the Byakugan, if he just looks at a star in the sky and it's a little blip, he just use Amino Tejikara to switch places with it, and then like keep doing it until he finds planets with chakra fruits on them to power himself up the way the Otsutsuki were planning to, and then just get stronger and stronger.
Yeah, he's
In
godlike at
addition
this
to,
point.
like, the infinite clone chakra fruit method, and like using the Preta path to absorb people's chakra and stuff, and all of the other amps he has. Like, this version of Naruto is just like really, really disgustingly powerful. So, like, I mean, if you can think of any way for like another anime character or whatever that isn't like outer versal or something by default to beat him, like, leave it in the comments, I guess. But it's not occurring to me, and it's not occurring to Six. Also, if there are any other cool synergies, sort of like the like Amino Tejikara clone thing that we talked about, leave them in the comments. I want to read some of them because this is a pretty fun topic in my opinion. But yeah, Six.
Yeah, agreed.
If you don't have anything to add, I think I'm ready to wrap up.
No, I don't think I have anything to add. It's just like, with Naruto being this overpowered, it's not. There's no way for it to be inconsistent, because there's no way in the world Naruto would ever achieve all of the things we're talking about. But like, with omnipotence specifically in creation of all things, I mean, there's a reason why the guy who had it, we never even get introduced to him. Like,
Yeah,
the
he'd be
ability's too broken,
inaccessible.
for it
I
to
mean,
be in a
let alone
manga for a
defeatable.
character
Can't even
to
access
just
that guy.
happen naturally. The only time that jutsu ever gets used in Boruto is by accident with Kawaki, and it literally flips the world upside down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It like changes everything completely. The effects are
A
like,
global
tremendous.
scale, yep.
So, you know, usual YouTuber stuff here at the end. Thanks for watching the video all the way through the end. This one's pretty long. If you're new here, subscribe. If you haven't yet, go subscribe to Six's channel.
Yes,
Hope
sir.
you have a
Shout out
great
to Six.
day, and yeah, take care. Bye, everybody.
Great video. All right, so I definitely want to get my thoughts here. So, like I said, Naruto with all his abilities is essentially inaccessible, let alone beatable. To even access where he's at and actually have access to have the theoretical possibility of even attempting to strike him or attack him or harm him in any way is nearly impossible. You have to have an extremely versatile and vast arsenal of tools at your disposal to again even locate and access him. He has such a vast arsenal that it'd be nearly impossible. You'd be playing cat and mouse, right? You could have infinite clones in multiple dimensions, and you'd have each of those clones would have infinite chakra, and each of these clones respectively would have an infinite amount of tools at their disposal, and Naruto himself would have omnipotence, and literally anything that comes to mind would come into creation. The only limitation would be his own imagination. that's the only limitation you have. As long as he can deduce or literally conclude something or have a thought come into his mind, the possibilities of what he can accomplish are essentially endless, right? So as far as other verses, you'd have to look at omnipotent beings to actually have a chance against him. You have to have that, right? People that can erase concepts, people that can manipulate concepts on a universal or multiversal level. That's essentially the only type of beings or beyond, right? Hyperversal, outerversal, omnipotent type of beings that can actually challenge Naruto at this point. Naruto, right, as a verse, right, as a narrative, has arguably the most vast and versatile set of tools in its power scaling system, right? It might not be the most powerful overall, right? Because no character has all the abilities, right? But it's the most versatile and vast, arguably, right? For example, Dragon Ball, its power scaling system is strength based, right? How powerful you are. There is no versatility. There are some abilities that are unique to certain characters, right? Instant transmission, Kaioken with Goku. There's some abilities out there, but with Naruto, it's so vast, so vast. In One Piece, you have the Devil Fruits, right? There's a few of them here and there. The Gum Gum, the Flame, I believe, fruit. There's a few. In Bleach, you have a fairly versatile system. You have Ichigo's arsenal and people like Kenpachi and the Quincy's, which have quite the versatile arsenal. You have certain Quincy's, different lettered Quincy's with different abilities, reality manipulation and, decaying with, the hollows, with the Espada, etc. But Naruto just seems to take the cake when it comes to versatility and vastness, when it comes to tools at characters' disposal overall as a verse. Right, so that's what makes this theoretical character nearly impossible to defeat unless you're godlike. Right? You're a godlike being. So yeah, this is a very interesting topic. A very, very interesting topic. I certainly enjoyed hearing the many possibilities. Right, the possibilities are essentially endless. Right, the number of combinations that you can deduce just from the vast and sheer amount of jutsu that exists, the sheer amount of amps, defensive capabilities, offensive capabilities, any type of capabilities. It's endless. The combinations make the numerical value of combinations nearly endless. So it's very interesting to discuss, very fun to discuss. Like Six said, like Swagkage said, it's just a very interesting topic to discuss, to speculate, to imagine, and sort of explore. Right. So I heavily enjoyed this. I'm glad Swag and Six did this. Shout out to them. And let's hope that Swag keeps posting consistently. It's good to see him back. Again, Swag, for watching. Appreciate you posting again, brother, and hope it's consistent again. Definitely a huge fan, just like many here that are watching this video, more than likely. And I hope you guys enjoyed. I can, like Swag and Six, talk about this forever. But yeah, great video. And again, I hope you folks had a good holiday, and I'll see you in the next one, folks. Stay classy.